Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Right before you is Carri Richardson, and this story is not going to die. It is going to be an ongoing story for the remainder of the Olympics. And the reason why I say that is because the sprints will be coming up. And during the time when the sprints are coming up, of course, it's going to be all of this ongoing controversy regarding this young lady here. Now, we can debate if she would have been a force to reckon with in the 100 meters, perhaps 200 meters, if she would have won. Personally, I don't think she would have won. But that's neither here nor there. Because all of this talk right here with Carri Richardson has put her in a position to be a bigger star than what she would have been had this marijuana controversy had not happened. Now, during the oncoming World Championships, all eyes will be on her. But this is not what this video is about. I want to focus and talk about something else. And that is the misconception that somehow it was some type of conspiracy that was laid out or planned out by white men to bring her down. Now, anyone who follows me knows that my channel is a pro-black channel, that you do not have to convince me about racism, racist ideologies or practices. I know they exist. I know that we live in a racist society. I know this, and many of my videos reflect this. However, I do believe that it needs to be applied when there is substantial proof of it. And in this case right here, I don't see that. Now, right here, Diddy says that Diddy speaks out about Carri Richardson's and Olympic marijuana controversy. Okay, he says it's effed up and my heart is broken for, I guess this is, initials right there, something like that. Having her lifelong dream stripped away for using a legal substance. I'm tired of white people sitting in a room making up decisions that affect our hopes and dreams. They will keep treating our athletes like slaves in entertainment until we shut down on these people. Said from love with love. Okay, so basically I'm tired of white people. So he took a racial slant right there. Is it applicable here? No, I don't think so. But let's move on. Then he sends another letter right here, but I want you to go down to the fourth paragraph. Now, to see them using this against a young black woman that is on the edge of her greatness, all because some white man decided to make it illegal, is shameful. So basically, he's putting something that she chose to do, that no one held a gun to her head, that she knew was illegal by Olympic standards, by the way, that it was a violation of the Olympic standards. Her team knew this also. But yet he's putting the blame off on someone else. So here's the thing. We have to take responsibility for our own actions. She's a world-class athlete. And she knew, and her team knew, that this was prohibited by Olympic standards. So she had about 2 more weeks until the Olympics, and she chose to take the doping way out. Now, when I say doping way out, I'm talking about Olympic standards. The pot. I mean, we can debate if it should be, or if it shouldn't be something that someone should be suspended for. No, it shouldn't be. But let me just tell you one thing. Rules are rules, and they are in play, and you have to abide by these rules. There are many other coping mechanisms that someone can use, and she chose to use one that got her out of the Olympics. But I want to go farther with this because the whole racial spin on this is not a good idea because it takes away from legitimate acts of racism and it trivializes something like this, which is not. And I'm going to show you this. Okay, for some reason, they bring up Michael Phelps, and he did this also. Let's go down to the last paragraph. Let me be very clear. Marijuana does not make you run faster. That's a fact. The whole situation is bullshit. And they let Michael Phelps swim. They should let her run. So you see they brought in Michael Phelps. They're claiming that, and I've heard this not just from Diddy, but from other misinformed people. First of all, Michael Phelps did not swim. The picture of Michael Phelps hitting on a bong was taken 3 months after the Olympics. This was 3 months after. So really there's no comparison. It was after the whole competition, the medal ceremony, everything was over. And then they want to bring up this Shelby Houlihan, tested positive for steroids just 2 weeks ago. Her response: I ate pork. I ate a pork burrito the night before, and that's how it got into my system. Been an Olympian and is known for winning races. In response, nobody says nothing. Carri Richardson tested positive for marijuana approximately a week ago. Her response: I'm human. I take full accountability for my actions. I'm under a lot of pressure after losing my mom, who died less than a week before the test. In response, the whole world bashed her. That's a lie. Carri actually has a lot of sympathy. Baby, y'all can kiss my little cousin's black behind. Okay, the whole world did not bash Carri. I can tell you from what I've posted that you have many people who are in support of her. And this is another foolish analogy. The reason why it's a foolish analogy is because compared to Shelby Houlihan, Carri got off light. Shelby, who tested positive for steroids, got a 4-year ban. Carri got 30 days. Shelby tried to appeal. It was rejected. It was rejected. And she took the maximum penalty. She got the maximum penalty, which is 4 years. So therefore, these two racial tie-ins that people are trying to make is just not working. It's not really applicable here. Michael Phelps, this was 3 months after the Olympics. Shelby got the fullest, harshest punishment there is, a 4-year ban. So therefore, people learn to apply the racial element when it's applicable. Houlihan tested positive for anabolic steroids, not marijuana, and she was suspended for 4 years. She blamed the test results on pork she had eaten in a burrito. So they did not buy that, and they rejected her ban. So let's move on. For those who who put a racial spin on this and try to say that this is somehow racial, that these white men in coats are conspiring against our sister Carri. Let's go a little ways back to 1988, the dirtiest race in the history of Olympics, a 100-meter final. So therefore, we're going to take you back a bit, and we're going to show you how within the Olympics or U.S. track and field, they don't give a damn about what color you are. They really don't. The only color they care about is gold. That's the only color in which they care about. They are not trying to ban black athletes. No one is trying to somehow have some type of conspiracy to keep black athletes from the Olympics. The United States track and field is egotistical, and what they want to do is use the best athletes as possible. Within the sprints, the black athletes tend to be the best athletes as possible. If they could have covered this up, they would have. But what happened is that USADA cannot cover it up like they did in the 1980s and 90s, where U.S. track and field was able to cover up all of these failed drug tests and allow athletes to compete and win medals. Many of them gold medals too. So let's look at this right here. This is the 100-meter race in the 1988 Olympics. And you know something? Vast majority of them, all of them, were on drugs. I want to show you something. King Carl Lewis. Okay, Carl Lewis tested positive. Positive test was covered up. I'm going to mention Carl Lewis by name, and the reason why is because he pretty much outed himself. Olympic legend Carl Lewis is among more than 100 American athletes involved in a cover-up of drug use, documents revealed. Lewis and two of his training partners all took the same three types of banned stimulants and were caught at the 1988 Olympic trials. According to documents released by a disgruntled former U.S. anti-doping official, Dr. Wade Exum. So right here, Lewis, this is the reason why I'm naming Lewis. Who cares if I failed a drug test? And in this report right here, our article, Carl Lewis goes on to admit that he failed 3 drug tests. And many people have said this, that the stimulants that were used by Carl Lewis and his teammates were masking agents for stronger drugs, steroids. So Carl Lewis has broken his silence on allegations that he was the beneficiary of drugs cover-ups, admitting that he had tested positive for banned substance, but claiming he was just one of hundreds of American athletes who were allowed to escape bans. So people in track and field, the sprints primarily, many of these athletes are black. They were allowed to escape. And many were allowed to go on, compete in the Olympics, and win gold, silver, and bronze medals. The Olympic Committee, which had initially denied claims of 114 positive tests between 1988 and 2000, were covered up. So you can go ahead and read that. So basically, these cover-ups were wide and deep. The Olympic sprints, track and field, has a history of drug use. They have a history of cover-ups. And I can tell you one thing. Around 1998, I used to be a personal trainer at LA Fitness in Long Beach. And one of the personal trainers was a girl, I believe she was from Denmark. And she was one of their top hurdlers. And she knew all the in and outs of the Olympics and things like that. You know, she was up there competing with all of these people from 1998 and onward. And she was telling me the names of people who were not clean. And your jaw would drop if you knew the names that she dropped. And everyone in the sport knew that there were heavy drug usage. We knew that Carl Lewis was using. He admitted it. He failed 3 drug tests. So did his training partner. His training partner, Joe Deloach. And his training partner, Floyd Hurd. Now, obviously, they're black. Were they banned? Was there some type of conspiracy to keep them out of the Olympics because they are black? No, it isn't. So with Sha'Carri Richardson, there's no conspiracy to keep her out of the Olympics because she's black. There are no white men sitting around with just some type of a plan to keep this young black girl out of the Olympics. Sha'Carri just got careless. She really did. And what happened is that the U.S. Olympic Committee, which was around during the time when these men were competing, they can no longer cover up a positive drug test. Now it's in the hand of the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, which is much more transparent. So this transparency makes it much more difficult for athletes to get away with drug usage. Right here, Olympics, drugs in the Olympics go way back. Yes, they do. Few of the athletes who have failed drug tests had their medals taken away. We can look at this right here. Clearly see that the vast majority are not black. Clearly see what countries they're from by the flags shown. So, I think that people need to be very careful in trying to put a racial spin on this. I think it does more harm than good. I think what it does is that it teaches people not to be responsible, not to follow rules, regulations that are set forth in your chosen field that you chose to compete in. No one made anyone to become a track and field athlete. No one held a gun to anyone and made them compete. You chose to get into the sport. So the said sport that you chose to get into, there are rules and regulations in which you must follow and abide by. It's tragic that someone lost their mother a week before, but whether you smoke pot or choose to go that route, understand that there are consequences. Now, do I think that you should have been banned for 30 days for using pot? No. And by the way, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency does not think so neither. USADA does not believe that, but their hands are tied. They cannot automatically just change the rules. They did not want to ban her, but they have rules in which they must abide by at the moment. So all of this racial talk needs to really stop. It needs to be placed where it's applicable, where there was truly something unjust that is because of race, not because of a weak moment that someone had or a bad decision in which they made, something in which they brought upon themselves. That is not the fault of the white man. You have to look at yourself and blame yourself for what happened. And she has. She has blamed herself for what happened. But what is going on right here is that we have interlopers, people who are on the outside, who are blaming others of a different race for what happened. And that is not the case at all. So it's best to speak up when you know what you're talking about, when you have proof of what you're accusing someone of doing is actually what is really going on. And in this case right here, there's nothing racial about this. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Stay Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you beyond and through.